Who is a person that everyone thought was crazy, but they ended up being right? Dr. Barry Marshall, an Australian physician who claimed that ulcers were caused by a bacterial infection, not stress or spicy food etc., was ignored for many years. Pharmaceutical companies were making a lot of money on ulcer medicines that had to be taken for a lifetime, and did nothing to address the root cause. Dr. Marshall eventually swallowed a culture of the bacteria Helicobacter pylori, causing him to develop an ulcer. Now a short course of antibiotics is used to treat ulcers. The guy who said you should wash your hands before delivering a baby was put in a mental asylum. Lindy Chamberlain Creighton. The dingo lady. People thought she killed her baby, but turns out a dingo did eat her baby. Russ Feingold. The only U.S. senator to vote against the Patriot Act. The guy who claimed that microorganisms caused people to die before the microscope was invented. Johnny Rotten called out Jimmy Savile in the late 70s. Einstein warned about Nazis' growing extremism towards the Jews in his letters. They didn't care first time. He warned again about Nazis developing a weapon of mass destruction. They listened this time and developed nukes before Nazis. World would be a lot different if they listened first time and don't listen second time too. Britney Spears, the leave Britney alone guy. Courtney Love spoke out against Weinstein very early on in the game. Ralph Nader, the guy who lobbied for seatbelt use be a requirement while driving. Our mom. She would walk her dogs down a dead-end street in a small Midwestern city every day, and she frequently told us how Rob Lowe would smile and wave as he drove past, and sometimes stop and chat. Such a nice man. We were so fascinated by her choice of delusion that we never asked why. Turns out his grandmother lived at the end of the street and Rob Lowe frequently flew from California to visit her. Such a nice man. Sinead O'Connor. Richard Hero. Copernicus. Mitt Romney when he was insisting that Russia had not in fact changed, and should still be considered as the US #1 geopolitical opponent. That guy who could hear Jews digging under his apartment. Denise Huskins was accused of faking the attack on her and her partner, and lying about being abducted. They were, in fact, attacked. Denise was kidnapped. Corey Feldman. Madame Zeroni. Martha Mitchell. The unsung heroine of Watergate. Galileo Galilei. Cassandra. Using the drop put as evidence, Richard Fuiss was onto Elizabeth Holmes pretty early on. Me, I have a low thyroid disorder that was misdiagnosed as a variety of mental health issues from age 1943 when I was finally properly diagnosed. One blood test and smart doctor in an ER as I fainted at work changed my life forever. It's actually more common than you would think for this to happen. Sinead O'Connor, she warned everyone about the Catholic Church and she was cancelled for it. Nowadays it's pretty out in the open that there's a lot of horrible things happening in the church. Alfred Wegener came up with the theory of continental drift. When he presented it at a 1928 symposium of the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, he was booed off the stage. Ignaz Semmelweis. Lindy Chamberlain. In Australia in 1980 she claimed a dingo had taken and eaten her baby. She was convicted of murder, and through her whole trial she kept saying, "By the dingo ate the baby." You have to say it in your best Australian accent. After 3 years in prison, the baby's jacket and infant bones with gnaw marks were found near a dingo lair, and she was finally released after a coroner confirmed her story. Rose McGowan. Everyone ridiculed Michael Moore when he predicted that Donald Trump might actually win the presidency in 2016. The guy who predicted that the housing market would collapse. John Brown. Dr. Jack Kevorkian. Someday, hopefully soon, the world will catch up and realize that prolonging a suffering life is a form of torture. First guy to drink milk from a cow. George Orwell wasn't that far off with 1984. Sinead. John Brown. Sinead O'Connor. She was right about church abuses, right? Galileo. Fela Anikulapo Kuti of Nigeria. Sang songs that got him jail multiple times in the 90s. He is dead now. Every time I listen to his song, I see just how ahead he was for someone who lived in an era where ignorance was rampant. Anita Hill. The guy who everyone thought was crazy for hearing Yiddish from underneath his floors. He had no basement. Copernicus. Martha Mitchell. Chris Crocker. George Carlin, a prophet. Copernicus. Dr. Emmett Brown, scientist, physicist and blacksmith. I'll save my answer for when this question gets asked again on Tuesday. The Chicks. X200B Ross Perot. X200B Ralph Nader. Tesla. Prince. He said the internet would kill the music industry. John Brown, considered a rabid abolitionist, a failure at business and an eccentric religious weirdo. Even among abolitionists he was considered strange as he actually believed in racial equality. He was completely correct that slavery as an institution would only be ended by violence. Courtney Love. She warned people about Harvey Weinstein back in 2005. Same goes for Johnny Rotten when he said Jimmy Savile was a pedophile. Courtney Love about Harvey Weinstein. Dave Chappelle about what was going on in Hollywood during his Chappelle Show years. Might be just me, but I feel like Jack Kevorkian was unfairly vilified. Now, a bunch of states have legalized assisted suicide in some form, and I think that is a good thing. Sinead. Jordan Chandler. Derided as a liar about the Michael Jackson abuse. The Wright brothers and Sir Frank Whittle about the possibility of flight and the jet engine. Mandipig, that old vice president, about climate change. Stephen Hawking about black holes. History is resplendent with examples. Jose Canseco and rampant steroid use in baseball. Sinead O'Connor about the Pope and the Catholic Church covering up decades of horrific abuse. Albert Einstein. Alfred Wegener, father of what would become the continental drift theory. H. Ross Perot. Tried to warn everyone about NAFTA, but everyone was like, LOL, look at funny little man with charts, must be crazy. Courtney Love called out Heavy Weinstein a good decade before shit went down. There's an interview asking her to give advice, and she said if Harvey Weinstein invites you to a private party in his Four Seasons hotel room, don't go. She was right. Sinead O'Connor. She ripped up a photo of the Pope protesting child abuse, and was shunned. Way ahead of her time. Cat Williams. People that said doctors should wash their hands before performing surgeries. When William Kinley died, it was from an infection, not the bullet wound. The doctor didn't believe in washing his hands and put his finger in the hole. Harry Potter. Voldemort was in fact back. Sinead O'Connor. Sam was right about Gollum the whole time. The man who heard Yiddish under his NYC apartment on the first floor. The guy who swore people were tunneling under his apartment speaking Yiddish. Turns out, years later, there was. Wasn't this exact topic posted last week with the exact same top answer and exact same replies otherwise? Dr. Rick Marshall. Matt Lauer can suck it. Mitt Romney about Russia, Al Gore about global warming. If there's something that can be taken from this, is that even a complete POS who spreads disinformation can occasionally be completely right. This post again? The Adingo ate my baby woman.